With the Penguin coming to a close, I'm going to rank all 3 live-action theatrical Penguins from the worst to the best, in my opinion. Hi, my name is Nathan, and we talk about a lot of movies on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share your ranking of the 3 live-action theatrical Penguins over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out once this video is over. And if you enjoyed this video, click the like button and be sure to subscribe because it really does help a good bit. With all that said, let's just get straight into the ranking. In last place is Burgess, Meredith, and I'll be completely honest here. I think all 3 Penguins are fairly good versions of the Penguin in their own different ways. I'll have things to praise about each 3 of them. And as a point of reference, especially when you get into Burgess Meredith, I've not seen a majority of the Batman 66 television show. My dad used to watch it a lot as a kid. I've seen some of the show here and there in my lifetime. But really my only familiarity with this character, and the only time I ever bother going back to the 60s Adam West Batman, is whenever I do these Batman rankings and rewatch the Batman 66 movie, when I rank the Batman movies. That's really the only time I go back to this, so this is just kind of purely based off of the 1966 Batman movie, although I'm sure even if I did watch the entirety of Adam West Batman TV show, then that placement would still remain the same. And so, when it comes to Burgess Meredith as Batman, I think that he's a good version of Batman in its own right. Certainly, it is fun to see Burgess Meredith play a classic Batman villain, especially because I know him mostly from Mickey, from the Rocky films, and he's just kind of fun to see as the Penguin. When you're talking about which Penguins are the most compelling and stuff, he doesn't particularly have any sort of journey or character arc. He's just kind of evil. He is part of that rogues gallery of characters. In the Batman 66 film, he does get some standout sequences that are memorable, especially when he's pretending to be someone and they knock him out with gas and then they bring him back and then he generates a bunch of henchmen and stuff like that. He does get some standout moments like that. But that's really about it when it comes to him. So, do I dislike Burgess Meredith as the Penguin? Absolutely not. I think, whenever I rewatch the Batman 66 film, whenever he does show up and gets those standout sequences, he is enjoyable. But it's just, of these 3, if I'm just being completely honest, easily he's the one that's the least compelling, with the least amount of a character arc or character journey, and the one I'm the least invested in. So, I have to have him in last for a reason. But he's still a good enough version of the Penguin, and he fit the Batman 66 film and TV show that he was in, which is something. Our runner-up is Danny DeVito from Batman Returns, and this is a version of the character that is a lot more so like a live-action cartoon than Colin Farrell's The Penguin in live-action on the big screen. But I think overall, as a live-action cartoon version of the Penguin, he fit the film that he was in. It fits the tone just right, where Danny DeVito could just play this character so well. He just fits this role perfectly. But at his core, I think Tim Burton adds sort of a human element to this guy who is dangerous and who can do over-the-top things. There's still a little bit of humanity in him. At its core, he is a guy that got abandoned by his parents when he was a child, got thrown in the river in the opening scene of the film, and for all these years grew up raised by actual penguins in the sewer, and is kind of just trying to look for acceptance from the people. And he's trying to figure out who he really is, and he's just kind of doing villainous things in the process when people are sort of opposed to him. Not necessarily opposed, but they're scared of him because he is so different. They don't fully trust him, and so he ends up going haywire. And there's just something that's kind of compelling and interesting about a character that at times can be over the top. He can be a full-on live-action cartoon. We'll get to that in just a moment. But it's just kind of compelling to see this character that only wants to be accepted, and he just simply isn't. Now, the reason that what holds him back a little bit is because he is in Tim Burton's Batman Returns, where he takes some of the elements and makes them way too cartoonish. Sometimes in the ways he rebels people, it's a little bit over the top. At some point in time, he eats raw fish and proceeds to bite somebody's nose, causing them to bleed. You know, some of the elements like that of this version of the Penguin don't necessarily work all that well for me. And likewise, at the end, his plot does get a little bit ridiculous, kind of a little bit confusing every time I watch Batman Returns, where he like straps a bunch of rockets to penguins and stuff like that. You know, some of it's a little bit cartoonish, but that doesn't change the fact that he is a memorable version of the Penguin that can be compelling, but also villainous at the same exact time. But for me, easily in first place is Colin Farrell from the Batman as well as the Penguin. I kind of cheated here on this one because I said live-action theatrical Penguins, and Colin Farrell does fall under that. However, Danny DeVito simply does not have an 8-hour TV show dedicated to him, and Burgess Meredith is part of a very episodic TV show from the 60s as well as a movie. He doesn't really have that much of a character arc, so I kind of cheated a little bit on this one. However, I feel like all you guys know why I had to include him on this list and count his appearance in The Penguin, because The Penguin's canon. It's a serialized show where each episode leads into the other, has a beginning, middle, and end, and is a character study of the characters. So I think you all know why I include his appearance in both movies. What he does so well in the Batman as well as the Penguin with Colin Farrell is that Colin Farrell just disappears into this role as the Penguin, where you do not at all see Colin Farrell playing the Penguin. You just see Oz Cobb, a dangerous gangster.
How you doing? I'm Oz.
I got you! Take that, you friggin' psycho!
What a little bitch.
He obviously poses no physical threat to Batman, but he feels like a dangerous person in the underworld of Gotham that's just kind of sidelined in the Batman, but done really well in the Batman, don't get me wrong. But then, once you get to the Penguin TV show and it explores the underworld, it explores the character of Oz. It gets much better with his character, and it definitively placed him at number 1 on this list. So with the Penguin, you just get this character that is purely evil. He has absolutely no redeeming qualities to him by the time you get to the end. But he also just has a little bit of humanity in him. What the show did so well was that it kind of played with the audience's mind about where, in the back of your mind, sometimes you know Oz is a very evil man. He's not a good person. But he has moments of humanity where you're kind of rooting for him, where you're kind of feeling bad for him. And not just in the first, 3 episodes when you're kind of following him around. Everywhere in the show, he gets a moment of, humanity until he does something afterwards that proves he is an evil person. He's not a good person at all. Nowhere is this shown better than where he has his relationship with Victor, where he meets Victor at the beginning, kind of is just using him, and throughout the course of the show, slowly sort of starts to bond with him, brings him into this world of Gotham, underworld crime, and drugs that Victor should not be involved in at all, but finds a little bit more family into that. And Victor is able to soften Oz up in a little bit, up until you get to the final episode, where Victor confesses that that Oz is family to him, that he cares for Oz. And Oz also says the same thing to him, where Oz agrees that Victor has been an important part of his life, and he loves Victor, which leads to him strangling him to death.
I mean, that's the thing about family. Oz, it's your strength. Oz, it drives you. Fuck if it don't make you weak, too.
I mean, it is dark, because he sees that although he really cares about Victor, he cares about himself more. And Victor, as family, is a weakness to him. And so that's just such a demented, dark ending, but that was the right thing for this character to do and made it feel earned in the final moments of the show, while being really dark and depressing, of course, but it was the correct way to play things out in this show. And he's also just a really demented character. He has this weird relationship going on with his mom, where in his backstory, he killed his brothers. And his mom secretly knows about that, and all he wants is approval from his mom. He wants his mom to be proud of him, but does he really? And by the time you think about it, by the time you get to the end of the show, you realize everything he's done is not for his mom. He only cares about himself, and he uses his mom as like a scapegoat, as like an excuse. And his mom has hated for him ever since what he did, and Oz refuses to accept what he did. He would rather have his mom tortured than to accept and admit that he killed his brothers.
I know what you did to Jack and Betty. I always known.
Lies. You're getting things confused.
There's something so dark, so demented to that. And the contrast in seeing him care for his mom and seeing him just watch his mom get tortured without admitting his actions kind of just is horrifying. Where he has sides of humanity, kind of, but he is a purely evil man. And he plays around with the audience a lot. He plays around with the characters in the show so much. And when you get to the end with his mom, and she's in a vegetative state, earlier on in the show, he promised he would kill her if she was in a vegetative state, because she said it was a pathetic way to live. And by the time you get to the end, they're at the top of a penthouse, and he says, "You like it, Ma? It's everything you ever wanted." And she just sheds a tear.
I know. It's everything you wanted.
And it's the look of horror on his mom's face that really encapsulates what it's like being around the character of Oz. I could even go on longer talking about this. I've already gone on for 5 minutes talking about this character, but I just thought this was a fantastic version of the Penguin that can be evil. He can be a little bit humane. You can root for him just a little bit, but he is a pure evil villain, and he was by far of these three the most effective and memorable. So for me, he is at number 1. There you have it. Those are my ranking of the 3 Penguins. Down below in the comment section, share your ranking of the 3 Penguins over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out right now. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end, and I will see you in the next one.